As we continue celebrating our graduates, I would like to invite up to our lectern our student speaker, Chris Frazier. I should just say a few words about Chris before she gets here. She receives a communication studies degree today, but her efforts on this campus went a long way beyond academics. She's the first OIT student to be elected student body president twice. Good job. She clearly has worked tirelessly here to improve the student experience. She has, just in the recent year, facilitated discussions on campus around a smoke-free environment. She led an initiative related to policy on campus closure. She spearheaded the very important 60th anniversary celebration week and served on the Presidential Search Committee and the University Strategic Planning Committee. And I'm pleased to announce that as she graduates, of course, we have retained her as a full-time employee. So please welcome Chris Frazier. Welcome.
All right, well, I'll try to keep this short since you guys probably aren't going to hear a word I say. You guys are too excited to take pictures, and maybe you guys can actually appreciate through all the sweat and tears, you know. 60 years ago, the first class of graduates had this same opportunity to claim a degree from what was then OTI, but as we better know it, OIT. What an honor it is to address you today as the representative for the 60th graduating class of students at OIT. For me, the only thing missing from this perfect day is the presence of Martha Ann, but I'm sure she's watching with pride. Over the last 4 to 5 years, this class has seen various advancements and accomplishments on this campus. I'm just going to name a few of them. 2 national championships in basketball, the building of the Dow Center, creation of a men's soccer team, the renewable energy program featured in the New York Times, the Week of the College Student established in the community, OIT ranking 10th in the top U.S. colleges in the West. That's something to be proud about, guys. The Steel Bridge attending national competitions, the Mini Baja placing 19th in the world in 2006, the advent of the Diversity Center and Women's Resource Center, as well as numerous research projects and reports published in national journals, all by these students. Truly, we are a class of very talented intellectuals. We have all contributed in one way or another to the success of this institution. As I've reflected on what to say today, I've realized an analogy that I'd like to share with you. Last fall, a good friend convinced me to take up running. Now, this is something I was reluctant to do because I have flat feet and was always told I'd never be a runner. We started slow and didn't run very far, but slowly increased our distance and speed as the weeks progressed. Each day, we trained and practiced. We started out here on the track and then began running on the road around campus, which, let me just tell you, the hill in the front of campus, it's a little challenging. After several months of training, I was able to run my first 5K on May 31st. I went from not having a desire or belief in myself when it came to running, and now it's something I quite enjoy. Now, where am I going with this story? There are a lot of comparisons to draw. I think college is a lot like running in many respects, but you could also relate it to life in general. Some of you may have felt about attending college the same way I felt about running. You may have heard things like, "You'll never graduate," or "College isn't for you." I'm sure you all have that friend or family member or mentor who convinced you to give it a try, and after taking their advice, began the journey to graduate. Whether a non-traditional student, international student, or first-time freshman, I'm sure you can all remember your first day at OIT and asking yourself, am I really cut out for this? I know I felt that way about halfway through my second lap around the track. But after a few weeks or months, or maybe even terms, you began to realize this was the right choice and you began to enjoy it. Well, maybe not the stress of midterms, finals, or junior projects, but I can tell you I felt that way about the hill in front of campus, but I made it over, eventually. When I first started running on the road instead of the track, I noticed that there were sometimes cracks in the pavement that could trip me if I didn't watch where I was going. And of course, there were the hills that often tempted me to stop running and just walk, or worse, stop running altogether. Sometimes in life, there are cracks in the pavement that can trip us up and take us temporarily out of the running, but we have to pick up and keep going. I'm sure you can all think of your cracks in the pavement. For me, my crack was math. In the beginning, my friend ran with me every step of the way. If I began to lag behind, she'd say, "Come on, Chris, you can do this." After winter break, our schedules no longer left us a time that we could run together, so I began running on my own. Whenever I felt like I wanted to quit, I could hear her voice in my head encouraging me to keep going. You all know this voice. Maybe for you it's the voice of a parent, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, teacher, whoever it was that was there to encourage you every time you wanted to give up on school or felt like you didn't want to study for that one test or quiz. Finally, after months of training, I signed myself up to run Hootie's Hillish 5K. Now, for you avid runners, you're probably thinking of 5K. That's easy. For me, it was an accomplishment, especially on the hills. I'll never forget the sounds of my friends and family members cheering me on as they saw me come around the bend to close in on the finish. I remember looking up at the last few seconds and seeing the time on the clock and then finding that last kick of adrenaline pushing me to sprint to the finish. Today is that finish for us graduates. We've trained long and hard, resisted the urge to quit, fought our way up the hills, avoided the cracks in the pavement, and now here we sit, just before the finish line, our family and friends here to cheer us on. Now is the time for us to receive our reward, a diploma from OIT. But it doesn't end there. We've been training for the race for so long now that our muscles are used to the rigors of running. We are now well conditioned and can go on and run marathons, whether in grad school or the jobs we go on to. But we'll never forget the training facility that is OIT and those who have made it possible for us. To the faculty, for the countless hours of teaching, grading papers, sitting on committees, listening to our problems and life stories, advising, and attending office hours, all dedicated to helping us learn. I think I speak on behalf of all the students when I say we have the best faculty around. To the staff and administration for keeping things running smoothly and always being so kind and helpful when we need to register for classes, struggle with financial aid, pick up a paycheck, or complain about the weather. To our family and friends who are always there pushing us along and encouraging us to do better, for believing in us and being our personal cheerleaders. Lastly, class of 2008, thank yourselves. Recognize the accomplishment that today represents and all the work it took to get here. Remember the lessons you learned, both in and out of the classroom, and thank yourselves for not giving up. Take the lessons and the memories of OIT with you as you live the rest of your lives. Look out, world. Here comes the OIT class of 2008.